Okay, is it gonna say you're live? There it goes. Hey, what's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where we talk about the adaptations of your favorite comic books into streaming shows, movies, and all other kinds of media, right? Today is a day that ends with Y, and so there is a new release that just came out. We are talking about the Ahsoka TV series that's on Disney Plus. It's a streaming series. First two episodes just came out, and Brian and I also got a chance to watch Blue Beetle, which came out 2 weeks ago. So today we're doing the first two episodes of Ahsoka, then Blue Beetle. Brian, which of those two are you more excited to talk about?
I'm gonna say Ahsoka. And honestly, I kind of put off watching it because I wasn't that excited. I know that there's a lot of like backstory. You kind of, I mean, I don't say you need to know or watch, but it's probably helpful. And
Yeah,
there's a whole like essential list on Disney Plus on the Star Wars page of stuff you can watch. And I watched like one episode of Clone Wars, and I just wasn't really feeling it.
yeah.
Uh, but honestly, like watching it, like even the opening scene, like I was pretty sucked in. I think it was pretty good overall. So by the end of the second episode, I was ready to go pledge the Kickstarter for the Star Wars Ghost Ship from Rebels that's currently going on at Hasbro Pulse.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know they had that.
Yeah, it's big and crazy, and I don't own that much like Star Wars memorabilia anymore.
Yeah.
I have a couple things here and there, but I'm like, but I probably won't do it because it's a lot of money, and I have no space for anything.
So for like massive billion-dollar franchises, they have Kickstarters to make toys for them?
Well, it's not actually a Kickstarter, but it's kind of like a crowdfunding thing. I think it's just the easiest way of saying describing it is Kickstarter, I guess. But I guess crowdfunding works as well. That's just Kickstarter came to me first, but it's a thing that Hasbro Pulse does. They do it for all their brands. That's how I got that giant Unicron back there,
Oh, okay.
and Star Saber, which you can't see. Death Star as well will be coming in a couple months.
Ooh.
But they've done a bunch of things. They've done they do Marvel ones. They've done a giant Galactus. They've done a giant Sentinel. Star Wars has done. What did they do before this? I know the Rancor one failed. They didn't reach the limit on that. They've done a bunch of GI Joe ones, but right now it's a big ship of the Ghost from Rebels. I don't remember if it's in the 3.75 scale or the 6-inch scale, but either way, I mean, it looks really cool.
Okay, cool, man. Yeah, I mean, if you get it, you got to put it up somewhere that everyone can see it.
Yeah, I probably won't because I think it's like $350 or $400 or something like that. It might even be more than that. I might be just guessing.
Jeez, man. Okay, so um, with this show, right, there already was a bit of backlash about it. I saw like some people had some issues with it. I appreciate like your optimism about it. I'm not going to rag on it because I don't think it's horrible. I don't. I think it could be better. Okay. I think that like if we're taking all the Disney Plus Star Wars shows, if we're looking at like the 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, Andor, and this show now, oh, and Obi-Wan as well, I would say that like Obi-Wan and Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan are pretty low on the scale. Then like Andor's at the very top, and it's sort of better than anything else. This is kind of around the Mandalorian range, where Mandalorian season 3 is closer to Obi-Wan and the Book of Boba Fett, and then like Mandalorian season 2 and season 1 are not up there with Andor, but they're higher.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I think that my main issue that I had with this show, right? So I actually really like Dave Filoni, and he's done something that I think is like super impressive, which is essentially to take the Star Wars prequels and just make them like far more interesting. There's a whole generation of people that love the prequels, and I think that part of that is because they had this Clone Wars cartoon show.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, I don't know if as many people watched Rebels and then like the other spinoffs that have come on, but he's been this sort of guiding force behind them. And I think that he's just done this really great job of making that era of Star Wars exciting, like that pre-Luke time.
Yeah, I agree with that. But at the same time, like I said, I was not looking forward to watching it. Like I guess I felt almost more. I would more chalk up to a chore than anything else before watching it. But there was a bunch of the story beats that just kind of got me, and it made me like want. I'm like, oh shit, maybe I actually do want to go back and watch Clone Wars and Rebels now. Like probably more than I had before. So I don't know. Like I definitely agree that Andor is like my favorite of the Star Wars TV shows, and the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian season 3 was not as good as 1 or 2, but at the same time, are we looking back at that too nostalgically already? Do we need to like reevaluate it? I mean, because that was the first Star Wars TV show.
Right.
Like, and it was good, but there was nothing to really compare it to other than movies. So it did a lot, I think, and I think it may be maybe it's getting more credit than it deserves.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you got a good point there. Like when WandaVision came out, we thought it was like, oh my God, the MCU can work as a TV show. And, it seems so exciting at that point. And now we're just sort of like, okay, here's another one. Oh, let's watch this one. Moon Knight, great. But with that being said, there is something that seems to be in all the shows, all the Disney Plus shows, except for Andor. And I know what you're going to say it is. I know you're going to say it after I say my example. But it's just everything feels very like flat. Like the acting feels flat, but then the sets, and I mean, they're not even sets, they're just like digital sets. And it just feels like what we always would complain about with the prequels, where it's just like, okay, they're clearly just like in front of a green screen.
Yeah, I think there's a balance in there, I think. On one hand, yes, I do prefer practical sets. But Andor wasn't completely practical sets.
No,
and I do think there's a benefit, and I think the volume is a great piece of technology, and I think it's needed sometimes because I mean this is a sci-fi world, and there's nothing on Earth that may look like these things,
Yeah.
And I don't think it's practical to build everything every time.
Yeah.
So I actually wouldn't. I mean, there are definitely a few times where I thought the backgrounds looked flat. I think the only character I thought seemed kind of flat acting-wise might have been Sabine on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone else was fine. I think, well, maybe you can argue Ahsoka herself, but I think that's the character rather than the acting. I think I actually like how she's portraying her personally, but I don't know how you feel.
I don't know. I think I always come off as like really critical and I don't like these things. I enjoyed this, right? But I did feel like everybody kind of was a little bit flat. I thought actually the worst one for me was Hera Syndulla. Like I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I think she's a fantastic actress. She was so good on the Fargo TV series, and then I thought she was great as Huntress in Birds of Prey, right? But like there's this weird thing, and I think it's maybe the way that they edit it or something. Like I think that they probably do what George Lucas does, where they kind of will film something from a different take and stick it into another scene, where it's like it almost seems like they're like kind of waiting to say their line. And she would kind of do that a lot, where like someone would talk, then there'd be like a little beat, and then she'd just say some kind of generic boring shit, which would be like, well, we need to get those thrusters over there. It's like it doesn't seem natural or emotional. Now I get for a Jedi, it's all about controlling your emotions, having your emotions be very subdued. That makes sense for Ahsoka. But in terms of like visual storytelling and making it sort of exciting, it felt like there's a lot of like moments where people are talking, they pause, another person talks. There's like beats where it's just like someone walking to get to something. It's like nothing dynamic.
Okay, yeah. At the same time, though, this is a first or second episode here. It is the beginning. I can kind of maybe I did not initially think that about her, but maybe there is something to it. I imagine that as a general in the oh my God, what are they? Rebellion. The New Republic. Yeah, I imagine she should be a lot more stressed than she is.
Yeah,
she seems like oh yeah, sure, a lot more casual about things. Yeah. Maybe I still don't think it was like the only one I feel like I noticed it on was Sabine though, like a lot. Like I feel like there was some things that should have been a little bit more emotional for her. Yeah. However, I think one of the most powerful things was when Sabine and Ahsoka first stood face to face there. There was like a crazy tension there that I was not expecting because I don't know what happened in Rebels. So so I was really intrigued by that, but I don't think they did a good enough. I mean, I think they could have done a slightly better job following through with that. We're making it a little more dynamic.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. There's one part with Sabine that I really, really liked a lot when she's riding her speeder bike and those two, I think they're headhunter ships, like that. They're like, fighters. And that scene was great. That looked like better than a movie. That was like great special effects. Looked
It was
awesome.
great,
And it was playing this cool, weird alien music that I was like,
Star Wars rock music, something I don't think we've heard before.
Yes, but you like that Star Wars game, Fallen Order, right? Isn't there like a weird kind of rock kind of song playing when he's working in that little shipyard or whatever in the beginning of it?
Shit, I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's probably from years ago. But that was the one time I played it, and then I broke my fucking
Maybe.
PlayStation.
God, I got to finish the second game. I haven't done that yet. I have such a horrible backlog of games right now.
But look, here's the thing. I actually wasn't really impressed with the hero characters. And that I don't think that that's good. Like with Star Wars, the villains are fucking awesome. Like Darth Vader's one of the, like maybe the most iconic villain ever, right? But still, like you have Han Solo and Luke and Leia. They're iconic as well. And obviously we can't compare every single Star Wars character to them, but you want to watch a show and be like, yeah, I want to see that scene with that person right there. And honestly, I don't really give a shit about any of these characters, the main characters. The villains are kind of more interesting to me.
Yeah, that was a great opening with Ray Stevenson. I made me feel real like sad that he passed away recently.
Yes,
that was a great intro for them. And I don't know who was. I don't know if they even named his assistant or his apprentice. But
the actress's name is Ivana Sankno.
Okay,
so that's his apprentice, and her name is Shin Hati.
Okay, I don't remember. That is a very Star Warsy name. You can just honestly, like when you hear like a sci-fi character name, you can always tell when it's a Star Wars character.
Yes.
You just didn't know what it was. Like, oh, that's Star Wars. That's the Star Wars name.
Yes, I agree. But I didn't actually like Shin Hati either that much. With her, like, okay, it's just all the emotional stuff, all the stuff where it's like it should be on the acting. It's like falling flat. And I don't think that it's on the actors themselves, because I know that Mary Elizabeth Winstead is great. I know that Rosario Dawson is great, right? But it's like it's probably in their directing. They're being directed by Dave Filoni too in that first episode. He didn't direct the second episode, but I think that like he has a lot more experience in animation, and so it just might be this different kind of feeling.
Very possible, yeah.
Like when you watch that Clone Wars cartoon, it even has that same kind of feeling, but I think it's because it's all CGI. And when it first starts out, it's, a much more, what's the word? Like, it's like far less advanced than what we have today. Right.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like,
you can also argue too, like one of my biggest things against those CG animated shows is they just feel empty.
Yeah.
And you can argue with that with these shows that are shot in the volume. They kind of feel empty sometimes because the backgrounds are flat.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as bad, but I just I don't know. I just like it when there's stuff going on in the background. Like I don't think we need to get as like crazy as as a movie or anything like that. But maybe if there was a little more, it would help. I know they can't always do that because not every scene requires to be out in public. Some of them are in close quarters.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Okay, well, I certainly sound like I'm down on this show, but here's the thing. Let me talk about what I do like. I do really like Ray Stevenson. And here's the thing. I come off as, oh, what are you, a 40-year-old white male Star Wars fan? Oh, you like the Jedi male character? Whoa, what a surprise, right? You don't like the female characters? Of course, right? But it's not that. It's that, like, the way that they write the characters. Like, Ahsoka and all the other characters, they are just sort of reacting to things or, just sort of relaying information to each other. Whereas with him, he has to kind of respond to this dark plan, to get Grand Admiral Thrawn back. And he has like a thing that's sort of against type. He's not a Sith. And he's at the very end of the second episode, he's like, oh, we would have to kill Ahsoka Tano. That would be a waste or something like that. And so he kind of shows like conflict right there. And that's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, sure. At the same time, though, like even though I know I have a general vague idea of how Rebels ended. I know that the character Ezra Bridger went off somehow and got Thrawn sent out far in space or something.
Yeah.
But I did kind of feel their loss, from Ahsoka and Sabine. Like I felt the need to go kind of correct that and then kind of correct what happened and find, and they still believed he was alive and he wasn't dead, blah blah blah. It sounded like other characters thought he was dead and they just accepted it and whatever, but they kind of still believed in it, and I appreciated that too. I don't think I do see some merit in the heroic characters here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's a really, really good point. There definitely is this feeling of like, oh, we lost at least Ezra. I know that like they also lost Kanan, who was like the captain of the Ghost.
Yeah, but I think he died earlier. I think he like died.
Yeah, right. And so I get it. Yeah, there's definitely that remorse kind of feeling, or like oh, we've lost our good friend. We went on all these adventures together, and now they're gone. And there is that tension between Sabine and Ahsoka that you mentioned. That is good too, but like I think that you wouldn't really fully appreciate it or understand it without watching those other shows.
No, you know what? I haven't, and I really did appreciate it. I felt it. Like I'm like, whoa, what is this? And it had me hooked instantly.
Okay.
I agree. Like you pointing out that maybe more was a little flatter than I perceived it initially.
Yeah.
But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm interested. I want to go back and watch more. Maybe that'll help me like the show even more. But I mean, I would definitely say that this kind of sits around slightly below Mandalorian off the bat.
Right.
But, definitely has more potential to, than Boba Fett and Obi-Wan. And was there another one we're forgetting?
No, it's just Obi-Wan, Book of Boba Fett, 3 Mandalorians, Andor, and this.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. With Star Wars, for the longest time, we just had the original trilogy, and then our little kid and teenage minds would fantasize about all the other adventures they could have and where you could go with the Force and do all these things. And so we would spin all these ideas, and then you got the expanded universe, and there was all these cool concepts they introduced. And there's parts of this show that make me think of that. Like there's the idea of there's the Star Wars galaxy, and then Thrawn and Ezra are in this other whole fucking galaxy. And I know that like in the expanded universe, they've absolutely played with that idea before, that it's like difficult to go to another galaxy. There's like a whole book. It's called like Outbound Flight. And it's about like a big journey to go to another galaxy from the Star Wars galaxy,
Okay.
And like that's not a new concept for Star Wars that they have in this show. And then they say like how it's difficult, and like with hyperspace travel, with hyperspace, it's like they have to map out how to travel through hyperspace, and then apparently to get from like one galaxy to the other, there's maybe like some sort of resistance or something. Like to me, that's interesting stuff where it like kind of builds up the lore and expands the world. So I was digging that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think. There was one other thing I liked, that the woman that is working for Thrawn, that's working with Ray Weiss, she's like a former Night Sister. Do you know what those are?
Yes, because they were featured heavily in Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, okay, cool. What are they like in that?
They're bad people.
Oh, okay, good. Okay,
they're enemies except for one. One actually kind of joins you.
Okay,
which is kind of cool. So I don't remember too much about it, I guess, but you fight a lot of Night Brothers, and you do fight a Night Sister or two. They're a bit more powerful, I think.
Are they literally called Night Brothers?
Yeah, and they mostly look like Darth Maul kind of clones.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. And there's a lot of them in the Clone Wars cartoon too. They have like at least like a season of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all that shit's interesting, like kind of using the Force in different ways and stuff. I love that kind of shit. I eat that shit up.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
So there was also, I think we might have talked about this once before, but like there was a whole series of Star Wars books called the New Jedi Order, and it was where this threat came from outside the galaxy, but it was really from like another dimension. They were called the Yuzon Vong. Did we ever talk about that on here?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So it's either that me and Mike Bongiorno talked about it on here in some of our Star Wars videos on here, or we talked about it on his podcast, Pop Culture Man Children. But like the Yuzon Vong were like a race from outside of the galaxy, and they were this race that was all based on like causing pain to themselves, and they hated droids and they destroyed droids, and they were like a really, really challenging opposition for the Jedi and the New Republic. But what was interesting about them was they came from a galaxy where the Force didn't have a presence. And so like you couldn't use the Force on them because they were like from a different place where the Force either like the Force wasn't alive there, or like it just never connected to there or something.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and so like I really like the idea of if they go to a different galaxy, I really like the idea of like maybe the Force would work differently there.
I feel like that's not something they're going to touch upon in a show like this, though. I think the goal is to get Thrawn to come here and not to go where Thrawn is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, did you have any kind of criticisms or anything like that about the show besides like what we discussed?
No, I guess not. I like I said, I'm still interested. I have a look so far, and we'll.
Okay. Oh, it's freezing a little. Let's see.
Oh no.
No. I can hear you now. It's working.
Okay. I just said I still have a positive outlook on it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt for now.
Yeah. How many episodes are there altogether?
Oh, I don't know. I want to say I hope it's more than 6. No, 6 is what Marvel does.
Yeah.
God, I don't know.
Okay. Let's see. I got it. Maybe I can pull it up on my laptop real quick. This is some thrilling audio for those podcast listeners. There's 8 episodes.
8. So we have 7 more weeks. Ends October 3rd. So that's probably a week earlier than I expected. But
yeah,
we'll have
cool.
To cover.
Nice, man. Nice. Okay, cool. Well, then, yeah, let's keep it going. If you guys are watching at home, let us know what you guys thought of Ahsoka 2. Are you kind of done with Disney Plus shows at this point, or Star Wars Disney Plus shows, or is this sort of rekindling your love for it? So,
actually, before we jump into Blue Beetle, this is a kind of a question. My son has gotten like heavily into anime lately.
Really?
And I keep thinking about this. We've talked about before how, you go into a bookstore now and there's like a whole giant section of 1,000 anime, but the graphic novel section is like one shelf really now these days.
Yeah.
Is the issue with Star Wars, with Western comic books, all this stuff, is the issue that it doesn't end? That we can't let it end? Like that's like the most defining thing I can think of in this difference is that they absolutely have things that have gone on for a very long time. What a friend of mine is trying to get me to watch One Piece. I may, but it's daunting because there's a lot. But I think that's kind of like an exception. I think a lot of these things they start and they end, and that's it. They don't go back to it. They just end.
Yeah. I think there's definitely something to it. I think the reason why manga has done better is because it doesn't seem as like gender focused. Like my daughter loves manga, right? Mm-hmm. But Star Wars has become more, but reluctantly so, more inclusive for like women and Star Wars, the men are always going to be like, oh, Star Wars is ours and stuff, but you see more female Star Wars fans, right?
Yeah.
I think manga initially had more female fans to begin with, and that's so important right there because you're doubling the amount of people that are interested in it. I think besides that, it's also collected very neatly where like every single trade is like, this is volume 1, this is volume 2. They always bring up the one point about manga where they're like, if someone comes to the store and says, where do I begin with Dragon Ball Z or something? You just say, here's volume 1, right? But whereas they're like, where do I begin with Batman? They're like, I don't know. Maybe
this good stuff. This doesn't count anymore, but this does. And then this is volume 7 and volume 8 of this is trade 1 of volume 8,
Yeah. And here's the thing, man, is that like right before this, I was watching a YouTube video by this guy, Patrick H. Willems. I think I mentioned him on here before, but I love him. We have the same birthday. And he was talking about content. And he was saying that how like the thing with all the strikes and stuff now is that streaming services like Disney Plus, Netflix, and stuff like that, they just want to have content to keep people occupied and on their platforms as much as possible, right? On their services as much as possible. So it doesn't necessarily matter like if they're putting out a good product or if it's like, oh, we're only putting out 10 of these and they're all going to be good. It's just like they want to put out as much as possible. And I think that with both Star Wars and Marvel, there just is too much of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Because they won't let it end.
Well, I think
I know you're trying to kind of discredit not discredit, but I think you're trying to give it more color than that. But I think there's something to it.
Yeah, well, I see, because I do kind of fundamentally disagree with it, because I think with Star Wars, for instance, like I said, there was only the original trilogy and we were just dying for more. Like, give us more, but it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then
maybe we went too far.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I think there has to be some sort of moderation where it's like maybe once every 20 years as a trilogy or something, and that's it.
Or I mean, I think that's hard to say. I mean, like I know Star Wars is 40 years old now,
Yeah.
But are people still going to be interested in it in another 40 years?
So yeah, it's actually older than 40 years, right? Because it's 77.
77. So no, is it?
It's 46
50,
then, right?
Okay, almost 50. So are people going to be interested in another 30, 40, 50 years? I mean, does it warrant going away for that long and then coming back? I mean, or should we just make something new?
I really wish they would make something fucking new, but like no one takes any fucking chances.
No one goes to see anything new. And I guess that's the problem. Like, I don't know. Like, what is that? Oh man, there's some movie coming out that I want to say it's Gareth.
Yes, Gareth Edwards. It's the creator, right?
Yeah. That looks really cool.
It looks fucking beautiful.
I'm hoping that's some kind of original thing.
I believe it is. If anything, it's based on a novel, but that's fine,
Yeah, that's fine. But and then I mean, that to me, that looks interesting and good. I'm very curious to see how that performs in the box office, and if that'll kind of create any kind of interest in more original sci-fi. Then and I actually kind of want to ask you: did you see the trailer for? You sent me the trailer for Rebel Moon. What did you think of that?
Nice. My friend Jay, who I think watches this sometimes, he sent it to me and he was like, "Holy shit!" Like it sounded like he was excited, right? And I think he wanted me to give my opinion, and I totally just gave him some blue balls, man. I didn't give him my opinion, and I think I gave you some blue balls too. I got to give my opinion here. Jay had a really great point. He said that it's kind of like a crapshoot with Zack Snyder. It could be like really good, or it could be like really bad. It doesn't seem like it could be in between. Do you feel that way about him or no?
Yeah.
Like I actually like Man of Steel, even though it doesn't feel like Superman.
Yeah, I like Man of Steel. I like 300. I like his Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, Dawn of the Dead's so good. We saw it together.
Yeah. Wait. Was he Sucker Punch? He was Sucker Punch, right?
He was Sucker Punch.
I hate Sucker Punch.
I haven't even watched it. Like I'm like, what the fuck
I hated it so much. Like I was so excited and I hated it.
Yeah.
And we know we didn't really care for Justice League. So
right.
I'm sort of interested in it, but I think I'm more interested in it because it's original sci-fi.
Wait, what about Watchmen?
Watchmen. Oh, I did like Watchmen. I have like a mild criticism of the ending. I really sort of fundamentally dislike that Dr. Manhattan was the alien threat.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a giant squid is stupid and it'd be hard to do, blah blah blah. But I know it just feels like low hanging fruit to make Dr. Manhattan that. I think.
Yes.
I liked it better when it's just it didn't need to be the squid, but it shouldn't have been Dr. Manhattan.
Gotcha,
I think that's really my only like major gripe. Otherwise, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and we did see enough of his low hanging fruit in that movie too. So it's like,
but then the Watchmen TV show was fantastic.
Okay, but I don't think that Zack Snyder's connected to that though.
He's not, but it was fantastic.
Okay, I still haven't fucking watched that. Hopefully, it's on HBO Max still. But anyway, to answer your fucking question, I know I like said 15 different things, but like the trailer looks beautiful. I think that Zack Snyder, if anything, he makes movies that are like perfect for trailers. Like,
he has a sort of like Michael Bay, but in a different way. That there is some kind of visual flair there. Yes,
right. That Watchmen trailer, that first Watchmen trailer, is like a work of art. It's like fantastic. This movie, once again, it looks great. Does that mean that like there's going to be jokes that probably fall flat, or they're going to be characters I probably don't care about? Am I going to care about like the message behind it? I'll probably have issues with it, but it looks visually exciting. What do you think?
I think it does look visually exciting. I think my biggest worry about it is it's going to be try and shoot too big, and I think it's not gonna land as well. I think I almost wish it was more. I wish it would seem more smaller scale and not some big like epic-y kind of thing. In the sense that like I feel like I didn't like the take of his take of like the Justice League are gods. Like I didn't like that, and I get that kind of vibe from it, and I don't like that.
That's interesting that you say that, because as I was watching it, the trailer just kind of kept going and going, and I'm like, oh, it's like they're giving us too much here. There's too much of this, and like, at first it just seems like there's humans and there's some sort of like occupying force, and they're kind of like fascist. This looks kind of intense. But then it's like, oh, well, there's aliens too, and there's some guy that looks like Tarzan or something jumping on a griffin. Like at first it seems like it's just about this fascist force, and then this like woman that was going to be a princess and she goes into hiding. But then all of a sudden it seems like it's like so much more. And
I'm absolutely not worried about seeing too much. I'm completely expecting this to be 2 4-hour movies.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I don't know what the actual lengths are, but I know it's 2 parts, and I know they're both going to be at least 3 hours. I get that vibe from it.
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested, but I'm not like the fucking lunatics that are on there that are like, oh my God, the new magnum opus has arrived. Our time has come. I
still don't understand the Snyder cult. I still don't get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, they kind of cross-pollinate with a different cult that's out there. That's pretty worrisome.
So a long time ago, you sent me a video. It must have been about Justice League or it had to have been about the Snyder Cut. It had to have been. But there were these 2 guys sitting there at a table, and they were like, oh, like going like this, all crazy about it. And I wish I could see it again. I think about it all the time. I have no idea where it is. I want to see it again because I need to understand. Like when I first saw it, I'm like, wait, is this like are they being sarcastic here?
Yeah, is it a parody?
But I still need to see it again. I think about it all the time.
Oh, I have to find it for you. That might be the reason why we need to get some more viewers and stuff. We just need to go like that to respond to things.
Oh my God, Optimus Prime!
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think because we're sort of like in the medium about so much, or we sort of appreciate things and have criticism, it's either like you have to just fucking hate something completely or love something completely.
Yeah.
That's how you get the view. Well, so speaking of which, did you hate or love Blue Beetle?
No, I'm flat in the middle. I think it was a very it was a I don't mean, but it was just okay, satisfyingly enough, okay, sort of. Like it didn't do anything exceptional, but it didn't do anything bad either. Like horribly bad, Like and it's weird. It's weird to say that kind of makes it one of the better DC movies. I think
that's a very good point.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No. I saw someone tweet out this guy's review that was just this like it was so fucking racist. I think he was trying to be like clever, and he was like, "Oh, holy guacamole! Like this, this was not caliente." Like he just was like thinking of all these Mexican references he could make to put down Blue Beetle.
Yeah,
and I wonder where the fuck I was going with that. I guess I was going nowhere. I just
all the time.
Yeah. But like, oh, okay. And I know because he was like kind of comparing it to like Mexican food, and I was going to compare it to Mexican food too. But let's just do good old fashioned burger for a second, right? Like there are times when you go to McDonald's and it's just fine, and you're full, and that's it, and there's nothing more to it. You feel a little gross because you ate this burger, but it's not this amazing thing. That's kind of what this movie's like.
Yeah, I think so. It's just like it's kind of like it's like an old standard. This felt to me like pre-MCU Marvel movies almost. Like it felt like a Blade or a. I mean, maybe not as good as like X-Men or something like that, but something like that. It felt kind of a little more standalone, a little like almost like Daredevil was a bad example because Daredevil wasn't that good.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a solid movie, I think, and it's like I said, nothing horribly bad about it. But nothing really exceptionally good either.
Yeah,
I think. So, and I think that's fine. I'm disappointed at how poorly it did in the box office, though. I mean, I saw somebody say that this is like the 7th flop in a row for DCEU.
7th.
Well, yeah, because they're not counting the Batman because it's not DCEU or DCU.
Wow.
So it starts with Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey. Or whatever, and it ends with this. So it's what does that have?
A lot.
Suicide Squad, which I didn't think that was much of a flop. So it's Wonder Woman 84, Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad,
Black Adam, Shazam, The Fury of the Gods,
Shazam 2, and there's one more that I don't remember.
Oh, it includes both Shazams?
No, just 2. Okay. I think one was before. It doesn't matter. 6 is close enough out of 7. But yeah, it's essentially 7th movie in a row for them that has not made back their box office take. I think you can make some arguments with the Suicide Squad because that also came out during that HBO Max period.
Yeah,
and I think it did decently enough in the theater even still. But and it wasn't terrible. It was at moments. I think it kind of got a little boring in the middle somewhere, but I think it was a decent movie.
Oh, I mean, that's where we get Peacemaker from, right?
Yeah.
7 flops in a row. That there's only 14 fucking movies in the series.
Yeah.
Oh,
we didn't say that. And how many of them are flops overall?
Yeah, we didn't say The Flash though.
Oh, The Flash. I'm sorry. Yeah, Flash was a flop. 268. 268. That's what it made.
Oh man, that's rough. I mean, we live in such a weird time where like it made $268 million. It was a flop,
Yeah, but
like,
they spent $300 million making it.
That's true. Okay, you got me there. Corson. But okay, so we feel the exact same way about this movie. I got an interesting question for you to kind of make you uncomfortable and stuff. Do you think that having a mediocre movie, but it gives a people representation in superhero films, is it okay to have a mediocre movie, or should it be that like we wait for like a better movie to represent a culture?
I mean, not every movie can be Black Panther,
Right. That's good. That's a good.
And that
point.
I think again, I think that we're clearly in the realm of B and C level heroes.
Oh fuck yes!
And I still think that for the longest time there was a reason why there were only Superman and Batman movies.
Yeah,
that's all people knew. Yeah. And I don't think there are as many. I mean, Marvel seemed to turn a lot of those B level heroes into A level, or S level, even if you want to say that. But I don't think that happened with as many DC characters. I think there's just they kind of struck a little bit of gold with Wonder Woman that first time, and I don't think they really hit with anything else as well. I guess the first Aquaman made a lot of money too. But
that was a hit. Aquaman
was a hit. So
yeah.
But I think there's people like us want these. Or at least did in the past want these kind of connected live action versions of comic books that that feels like living, breathing world. But I don't think the general public necessarily did.
Yeah,
and I don't think they care about these lesser heroes like Blue Beetle and things like that. I think you throw out another Batman movie, it's going to make money no matter what it is. It's going to make money. Or a Superman movie, it's going to make money. You throw out something like this or some other lesser tier character, unless it's extremely exceptional, I don't think it's going to make money.
Yeah, really good point. I mean, just to kind of back up your point, there was a point last night. Well, how many fucking times did I say point in 1 minute? I'm watching the movie and like Jaime Reyes is struggling. He's like fighting with Omac, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the fuck am I even watching? Like it's like so incredible to me that like I'm watching Jaime Reyes fighting in a movie on the big screen, and like there's other people in the theater watching it with me, because it's like the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle character, regardless of his ethnicity or anything like that, that's such an obscure character.
Yeah.
Like Ted Kord Blue Beetle, which is like the main Blue Beetle, is an obscure character. You know, this is a spin-off of that character. And it's like I'm watching a fucking $1 million or hundreds of $1 million movie, and he's fighting Omac of all fucking characters. Like,
yeah, you're taking lower tier things here, and
yeah,
I think it's definitely possible to fish something out of those. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is a fantastic example of that.
Right.
They absolutely elevated those characters to household names, you know.
Yes.
And I just don't think you can do it every time, you know.
No, you can't. And it's interesting because this movie is clearly inspired by like kind of Kotaku, like the kind of Power Rangers kind of thing, or like Guyver, that sort of that live action.
Yeah, that's Sentai stuff. Yeah,
Sentai. Right. Exactly. It feels like it, but it's just it's such a weird experience. Like it's like a mixture of like Spider-Man and Iron Man, and then like Power Rangers, and then it has this whole Mexican angle to it. You know?
Yeah,
and,
I definitely got vibes of many things I've seen before in this. Like, and you know, of course, it's the first movie, so they're always fighting kind of like an inverse of their own power set, sort of.
Right.
Which is very, you know, cliche and cookie cutter. You know, that's generally what every origin movie is you're fighting your inverse. You know, you're fighting your shadow. That's what they do. So that's what I said. Like, it reminded me of superhero movies before connected universes.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a solid movie, you know?
Well, one company that puts out movies to this day that feel like those kind of movies is Sony. And this felt like Venom too. It also felt like Venom.
Yeah, but I will say that. But I mean, you know, we had some harsh criticisms for Venom. I don't have those here.
Right.
You know?
Right. Oh, well, go ahead.
Yeah, that was kind of like, I just don't have the criticism really. I mean, there are I guess there are things that could have been done better or something.
Yeah.
But like, it's nothing really bad or laugh. Like, I wasn't like, that's fucking dumb. Like, I didn't think that at any point during the movie.
Oh, well, it's your boy with his Rat Bat t-shirt over here. I got some criticisms.
Okay.
I got nothing to First of all, okay, Susan Sarandon, man. That's a fucking waste of Susan Sarandon.
Okay. Yes, and I have a comment about that too. Is when I was every scene I watched Susan Sarandon in. Susan Sarandon was kind of like a mustache twirling villain here. That was the extent of what I saw her.
Exactly.
She is absolutely wasted. But at the same time, is that how like Russian people feel or German people feel when there's like, you know, they have the stereotypical Nazi or like Russian guy as the villain? Is that how they feel when they see a movie like that? Because that's how I felt. I felt like, oh God, like I feel attacked.
Well,
it's like the token white character. That's the only white character in the movie. And I felt like, oh man, like this is other people feel when you know their race is targeted as evil.
Holy shit! She really is the only white person in the whole movie.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that. It's funny because she does make a whole bunch of like racist comments. She calls right, like she calls the guy from What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
Like the whole movie, she's calling him by a different last name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very common Spanish name. I don't, God, what was it? But yeah, and then his death cry was, my name is this.
Yeah, he said this much longer name.
He was kind of wasted too, honestly. I think he's I think they could have done more with him. That line was great when he kind of did that, but otherwise, a lot more off on the side than I expected.
Yeah. The problem with the movie, and I wrote this in the notes, is just like every single thing that happens in the movie, you can telegraph. You're like, okay, this person's going to do this. So with him, it's like he's the reluctant scientist that's helping out. And it's like, okay, he's going to essentially like sacrifice himself or be like, I'm not doing this anymore. And he's going to let the heroes escape, or he's going to let them into something.
Yeah.
And he does that. He lets Jaime escape or whatever at the end there.
Yeah, kind of like a redeemed villain, sort of. Yeah.
Right. There's stuff like that. Like the whole movie, you can telegraph what people are going to say. Like you kind of know what jokes they're going to make in certain moments. It's stuff that we've seen a million times over. And I think that I could critique it a bit more. What keeps it just at kind of like that mediocre line and it doesn't dip is that there's a couple of things that are pulling it up. And I think it's the charm of the actors. Like Zolo Maraduena, who plays Jaime from, he's from Cobra Kai and stuff. He just like inherently is a charming person.
Agreed.
So just like seeing him, you just like him, right?
Yeah, I honestly I liked all of the his family too, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. The whole Reyes clan, especially the dad. The dad's very sweet. Spoilers: the dad dies, and I was affected when he died.
Yeah, same here.
But then the standout for me, which like this kind of blew my mind, was George Lopez. I don't really like George Lopez, but I thought he was great in this.
Yeah, although I guess I was questioning. I wish they would have given us a little more on his kind of like engineering-y, fiddling around inventor background.
Yeah,
because he built an EMP to like block out an entire corporate building in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah,
I question that a little bit. I'm like, okay, like I don't know here. Like, just give me a little bit of a reason how or why,
Yes, I mean that's a good point, and it's not just like a corporate building, like it's like an insurance company. It's like a corporate building that is all based on technology, like advanced
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much little nitpicky shit we could get on, like where they're like lock down the building, but meanwhile they're like letting everyone get out, including like a stranger, like Jaime. I mean, there's so much stuff in it that is like you can poke holes into it. But one major critique I really wanted to get to though is that I felt like Jaime himself didn't really have like a drive. Like he didn't have, I understand that in the very first scene we see him in, like he goes out to eat with his family and they're like, hey, we're losing our house and your dad doesn't work in the auto shop anymore. And so it's like, well, I have to get a job. But even that is like a reaction to something. He never is like, this is what I want for myself,
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you can argue is the only thing he wanted was Jenny, and that kind of happens sort of. But I agree there. There's not enough of his own choice. It's like he has to do it sort of, and he's not really choosing to do it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I can see that. But you're right though. Like he kind of pulls it off with his charm, though.
Yeah, like yes, absolutely. His charm makes you, because I absolutely care about Jaime throughout the whole movie, but it's because of the actor. It's not because of his actions, Yeah, and it's like the uncle too, right? But what I was going to say was that in a movie like this, it's very, very easy for it to just be like, oh, the bad guys show up, and that's what moves the plot forward. Oh, the bad guys show up, and that happens multiple times in this movie, where like he's like, okay, well, I have to get this scarab out of me because it's going to bond with me and I need to get it out or it'll kill me if I don't take it out. Right. And so then, or the only way I can get it out is if I die. Right. And so then, like it could be that he's trying to figure out how to get the scarab out. He's like having maybe a conversation with it because it can talk, but then there's nothing like that because all of a sudden the bad guys show up and capture him,
Yeah.
So and so it's just like, and then like the family, they show urgency because they go to rescue him at the end, but he himself as the title character, I feel like doesn't have any kind of purpose or urgency.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess you could also argue maybe there was a slight bit of revenge for causing the death of his father, but even there, I don't know, something feels muddied there.
Yeah.
But yeah. Speaking of Khalid, in the notes you mentioned the voice, and I think I mentioned this with the trailer. And you even said before how much this felt like a mixture of like Iron Man plus Spider-Man MCU style, and it really did. And I really wish they would have taken that more of almost more of a Venom approach and Young Justice, where it was a little more like violent, like wanting to be violent or something. Like the thing that bugged me about the final battle is the suit stopped him from killing the guy or killing who? Was it Carapax or was it?
It stopped him from killing Olmec. Yeah.
Olmec. Yeah. The suit did it. It should have been the other way around, honestly. Like that's how it's supposed to work. I think that would have been a lot more of a compelling angle to take during the whole thing. Is and I know maybe they didn't want to imitate Venom. I guess I don't know. That's kind of what Venom, Tom Hardy was doing, right? Eddie Brock was doing. He's trying to calm that murderous urge in the symbiote, and I don't know, but it already felt so much like Spider-Man and Iron Man. Like, why not just take it the whole extra mile and just copy that too?
Just go on full Sony Spider-Man. Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is at one point he's in these like catacombs or whatever, fighting guards, and he's got his pincers kind of attacking them too. And I was like, wow, that looks just like the Iron Spider, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we talk about how it's a comic book adaptation. We should just talk about for like 1 minute the source material, right? So like Olmec, for instance, is created by Jack Kirby, and he was like in a future. The original Olmec is just like a one-person cyborg character, and it was in the future, and he had a mohawk and like kind of blue skin, but he was like a cyborg, right? The Olmec that probably more people know is like these Olmecs that are like Sentinels that came out around Infinite Crisis time.
Yep.
And I think the reason why they picked Olmec in this is because they killed Ted Kord right when those Olmecs were like unleashed onto the world.
Yeah.
I
associate the death of Blue Beetle with the Olmec Project and Brother Eye and all that.
Right. And so, like there is actually a Blue Beetle that's from before Ted Kord, from the Charlton comics,
which they mentioned.
They mentioned, right. You know all this shit. So, like, it's interesting that they reference all of them in this movie. They reference Ted Kord. They have his bug thing that he would fly around.
Which we were talking about watching before. I know that Night Owl was inspired by the Dan Garrett Blue Beetle. I really got that owl ship vibe from the bug ship. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty. One of our most watched videos is our Watchmen video, where I'm like, okay, well, Peacemaker is the comedian and Blue Beetle is Night Owl, and you feel that in this movie with their ship and stuff, which he had in the 90s and stuff. They're flying that in the Death of Superman and stuff. You know? But with the comic, there's this whole other part to it where there's the Reach, and that the Reach essentially send out these scarabs to take on a host, and then the host can essentially enslave a world or destroy a world. And Young Justice, we already talked about this, but Young Justice did such a fantastic job with that arc.
Yeah, Blue Beetle is kind of like a central character within the second season. Yeah.
And then in this, like they reference it that it's like a world-ending thing, but then that's as much as they do.
Yeah, I wish they would have did more with that or teed that up a little bit. And I feel like we're not going to hear about it again necessarily unless they wrap it up in some kind of big event movie or something. Yeah. I don't know. But that does also feel like a waste of opportunity. It's hard to cram all this stuff into a movie, though. It will be a lot to take in to cover, this kind of legacy superhero, the disappearance of the predecessor and a whole alien race and thing like that. All in this, I think that would be a bit much to take on. So it makes sense on one hand, but it's also kind of disappointing that it feels kind of left out.
Yeah, I think that probably maybe even in an original draft of this movie, they might have just not had any of the Kord stuff, or maybe there was like a little reference to Ted Kord, but they just focused on the alien stuff, and maybe there was like an evil scarab that came down to Earth and was like trying to track this scarab,
Yeah.
And then that would be a lot more like Venom then.
Yeah. But we should talk about Ted Kord's presence in this too. I think,
sure.
They do go to that rundown mansion that where he used to live, and there's like a whole cave there. Well, we get that, the line from the trailer, Batman's a fascist, which is still funny. But you said that, he kind of was like a goofy Batman, and I agree, and I kind of like and appreciate that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And all the stuff with Ted made me think like, oh man, like I want to see. I need to see this version. I need to see Ted Cord and Booster Gold in a movie.
Yes,
I
yes.
really want to see that.
Yes. Well, so isn't Booster Gold going to be in the new Superman movie?
I don't think they cast Booster Gold yet or anything like that. I think that might have been like a rumor. I'm not sure. That's not as as solid as some of the other information we've gotten. But
Okay. So
and,
then, go ahead.
And you mentioned Jason Sudeikis as being attached. I think that's a rumor.
Okay.
I don't know if that would be there. But at the same time, like I keep thinking about Chris Pratt as Booster Gold.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that idea, but I don't think that would work with Jason Sudeikis, Ted Cord.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Nathan Fillion, they've attached to Guy Gardner, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking that maybe he was the one they cast as Booster Gold. I could have sworn that it's like in this Superman movie they have like 4 fucking heroes, and one of them is Booster Gold.
No, it's Guy. It's Mr. Terrific, and is it Hawkgirl?
Oh,
Is that who they cast? Those are like the 3 that they announced fairly recently. In the last month or so.
Okay. So
there was always rumblings of something Booster Gold. I know that before.
So there's a Booster Gold movie.
I don't think that's in production anymore. I think that was a pre-Gun Sarafin thing.
No. That it's one of the DCU announcements.
Is there?
Yes. It's part of the slate.
It's so hard to keep track of all this stuff, man. And
well, the writer's strike has like fucked things up too.
Yeah, it has. It absolutely has.
But I think that
okay, as part of the new slate of films, Gunn and Safran weren't able to announce Booster Gold. Yeah, okay.
So you could absolutely have the Ted Cord from this movie team up with the Booster Gold in his movie.
I hope so. That would be something I would like to see. I don't know. That's a B-C level thing.
Oh yeah,
BC, not DC. But I want to see it. I kept thinking like, oh man, I want to see Ted Cord and Booster Gold in a movie.
Shit, yeah. Well, maybe we'll get our wish. Maybe they'll bring Jaime back for that too.
Yeah, I hope
that'd be fucking great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, we're almost at the hour right now. Was there anything else you wanted to say about Blue Beetle?
No, I guess that's it. Oh, yeah, I liked. We didn't really talk about Carapax too much, and the guy who was in the OMAC suit. He was, a terrifying kind of villain, inverse power set sort of thing. I did like the end, the redemption at the end there. I really appreciated that, where he kind of sacrifices himself and takes out and kills Victoria Cord. So kind of like Blue Beetle doesn't have to. So, Jaime doesn't have to.
Yes.
I appreciated that. And I thought that was well done.
Agreed. Pretty much everything about her was like cliched, like every line of dialogue she said. The only thing that was kind of like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, was that he like literally dragged her into the fire. Yeah. I was like, that's cool. That was a nice little unexpected thing. Yeah. Cool, man. All right. Well, we liked Blue Beetle. We thought it was like just good enough. And then you liked Ahsoka, I think, more than I did, but I still do like it too.
Yeah.
Cool. So then we can talk about Ahsoka some more next week. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And, I know you already are telling us about Ahsoka, but let us know what you thought about Blue Beetle if you got a chance to see it too. We'll catch you guys.